It's okay to give a negative review, but it's not okay to have half of your short review be about the ending of the movie and have the ending that you're giving be completely wrong. And I just want you to know, Mr. Christophe Gans, if that is your real name, if that's how you say your real name, I see you, I hear you, you made a solid movie, you made a solid Silent Hill movie. Don't let the haters, well, let them hate, but don't let them get to you. You did good, guy, you did good. And on that note, I'm going to talk about the movie. Okay, so first and foremost, it's not a straight one-to-one adaptation from the game to the movie. And that shouldn't be a surprise because that's not usually how adaptations work. Spoilers for the entire video. If you don't want to be spoiled, turn it on silent, like and subscribe, and just let it play to the end. Thank you. So Jimmy, Mr. Jimmy James guy, he is an artist in this movie. To be completely honest, he kind of reminded me of like Alan Wake versus like the bad Alone in the Dark games. Like he seemed like a protagonist for that, and I can totally understand. Like there's a part of me that almost wishes they'd have got like David Dashmashman, you know who I'm talking about, someone like that who's like awkward and stuff like that. But instead they kind of got like a guy who comes off really broody, so it feels more like a late 90s, early 2000s movie than a lot of newer movies. But I have seen a lot of those movies, and so I'm like, cool, I'm in. And then on top of that, he's not married to Mary. And that makes some people really, really not marry. The thing is, that actually fits with the story they're trying to tell in this movie. Because what they wanted to do was they wanted to have a bookend in the beginning and a bookend in the end. This is how he meets her. And then we go from here and we talk about it. And then we have it loop around back in the end. So, James is driving to Silent Hill. And a truck almost hits him. Final Destination style, so he swerves out of the way, and then he hits a suitcase of Mary's, and so he stops because he's like, oh no, I did bad, which he did. And then they talk and they're in love. Two important things about that scene. First, she was about to leave, potentially forever, on that bus before James got involved. She decides for whatever reason to stay and then go with him, but also there's a little kind of hint. It gets stormy, and she goes, oh, James, This is a hint that sometimes Silent Hill gets a little Silent Hill-y. Oh no! Smash cut. Present day. James is a little drunk. Turns out he's got a few problems. Turns out he's got a doctor calling him. Doctor is like, yo James, what are you doing? James is like, and she's like, hey, you need to take care of yourself. And he's like, and she's like, I love you, James. Does she really say that? Watch the movie. What I find most interesting about this scene is that while she's talking, she's got multiple reflections on shattered glass. Some might say if this was in the past, it would be a shattered memory. And what they're doing is introducing elements from other Silent Hill games into the story. Then James finds a letter from Mary, and the letter is like, James, Silent Hill time, Silent Hill. And James is like, looking in the mirror. Just like in the game. He's like, yeah, James time in the movie. And then James goes to the cemetery and he meets Angela there. Not intentionally, I assume. But Angela looks like Mary in this movie. And Angela's like, James, I don't know you, but Silent Hill is a bad place. And James is like, look, person I don't know, I gotta find Mary. And he leaves. Good scene. After that, we get a handful of scenes that are a mixture of he's in Silent Hill is creepy, he finds a radio, monsters are there, monsters are bad, and then some flashbacks to his time with Mary, and Mary being like, I love you, and also being like, look at my non-suspicious friends who seem very weird. Some would say cult-like, who all loved my father and love me too. But the father is dead. And also he's also getting a phone call from the doctor with shattered glass. That's like, shattered memories, James. They don't ever say shattered memories. That I don't think they do. But shattered memories, James. So now we have monsters. Flashback. He finds like a TV with videotapes that are kind of implying culty things, but also the doctor is calling someone else and going, hey, I have a patient and something is wrong. He is Silent Hilling. to be clear, she doesn't actually know what silent hilling is, at least not to the best of my knowledge. Then after that, we get another flashback where James finds Mary with her cult-like friends, and they're all acting really weird in her room. Some would say cult-like. And then we're in the present, and James meets Eddie, Laura, and Pyramid Head. And here is where we probably get like one fair complaint, which is that Eddie is only in this scene in the entire movie. Supposedly he was in other scenes that were cut, but right now he's basically just a glorified cameo. So he escapes one way, Laura escapes a different way, and James escapes another way to get away from Pyramid Head, but Pyramid Head follows James, and there's also a spider lady, and while James is in a closet, Pyramid Head does Pyramid Head things to Spider Lady. And now there's another little bit of a complaint, because then Pyramid Head finds James in the closet, and Pyramid Head is like, "Rah!" And James is like, "Ah!" But then we see Pyramid Head, and Pyramid is like, "Rah!" But it's James. You can kind of see that it's James going, "Rah!" So Pyramid Head is James, and James is James. So James. And then it cuts away, and we got a new scene, and like a different, less Silent Hilly closet. And that's how it goes. And I'm fine with it. But lots of people are like, James, no. So then James is out of the closet, which is good for James. Good job, James. And then he sees Angela Mary with a knife. And Angela is like, everything's bad, James. Silent Hill's bad. I told you bad. And James is like, I gotta go. You got a knife. And then so James also meets Laura. And Laura's sweet and innocent, but she's also really weird. And she's got like it seems like a teddy bear or something like that, but she's hiding it. And she's like, Mary gave this to me. And James is like, Mary? I know Mary. You know Mary? You know Mary? I know Mary? And Laura's like, I don't care. I'm leaving. And I know exactly what you're thinking. He already said James met Laura, because James did meet Laura, but now they met again, and I shouldn't have to say that. Rude. So then he goes to try to find Laura, and instead meets Maria, and they don't formally introduce, but they're very friendly with each other. And he's like, I'm looking for a little girl. And she's like, well, that's weird. And then she's like, are you real? Oh, you're real. And he's like, that is also weird. And then they do talking. And he's like, I think my girlfriend is at the hospital and she's not well. And Maria's like, how long has she been not well? And he's like, oh, headache, I don't remember. And Maria's like, is she even still your girlfriend? And he's like, oh, James. Then they head to the hospital. Monsters. Flashback, and James is following the cult underground with Mary. They don't know he's there. That's why he's following them. So then we're back at the present at the hospital, and Maria finds a tape that's about Mary Crane being sick. And she's like, Mary Crane? Ah, her father was Joshua Crane, and they're part of a freaky religion. That's what I was told. And then James is like, James, flashback. And he sees the cult, and they're acting all culty to Mary. And it's weird. It's kind of like Eyes Wide Shut, but I don't want to like make you think too much of Eyes Wide Shut, because it's more like much more toned down. But he's like, oh no, that's Mary. Oh. And then he leaves. Back to the present in the hospital. James is like, oh, whoof. And then Silent Hill gets even more Silent Hilly. And he's like, oh no. He runs and grabs a weapon. And he's like, Maria, we gotta run. And then they run. And they run into a bunch of nurses. Psych! Evil nurses. They gotta run away from evil monster nurses. And then there's an elevator scene. She gets stabbed. They get away. And she's like, oh, snap. And the elevator's going down. So then something super crazy happens, and James finds a way to patch her up in the hospital. And while he's doing that, she's like, I know I look just like your girlfriend. I can tell by the way you look at me. And James is like, and she's like, just promise me that if you find out she's gone, that you'll take me with you and we'll never look back. And James is like, weirdo. And then he leaves, and then he runs into Laura. And then this is another thing that's kind of weird that I kind of understand people being upset or at least weirded out by. It turns out that the doll that Laura had is actually a baby. I'm going to keep that in there. You can't stop me. And the baby is super weird and deformed. And she's like, you don't love Mary. Mary wasn't loved, just like the baby wasn't loved. Freaky baby. And I think I'm not sure, but I feel like he was just going for PT here. So, like, I'm okay with it, and I'm okay that it's weird, but it is weird. And then she runs away, and he chases after her, them, I guess, because there's a baby too, and ends up at, like, room 318. And Laura locks him in because this is like the game, kind of, but, like, not entirely. Obviously, at this point, you know that. And then there's Mary, and she's like a freaky monster demon Mary, and I believe she's called Moth Mary, and she's like freaking him out and goes into his mouth, and then he wakes up in a hospital. Psych. So then he's like, nurse lady, where's Mary? What is going on? Where am I? And then the doctor lady walks into the room, and doctor lady's like, James, she's dead. You know she's dead. You have to move on. And he's like, I am not believe you. We get another flashback. James is alone in the apartment with suitcases packed, in total darkness, drunk, and Mary comes in from outside, as one does, and they start arguing and fighting. James reveals that he saw them being culty with her, and he wants to leave immediately and yells at her to leave immediately, but she says that she won't leave while he's drunk and angry like this. And so they're arguing and fighting. He's finding out that she's been dealing with this cult-like situation since she was a child, and she also reveals that she was going to leave on the bus until he stopped her that day on accident. And I think a lot of people have a problem with that, but I also think because it's a cult, the implication is that even when she was leaving, she felt like she was trapped in the situation. And so by happenstance, him doing this is part of what leads her to be like, yes, I am stuck here forever, even if it's by like coincidence and like God's hand, and I am being forced to be stuck here forever. And then on top of that, she also feels disgusted and says he is disgusted by her and is freaking out about that. So she's not going to leave with him. He freaks out and he leaves on his own. We go back to the hospital, and the doctor is explaining to the nurse how much James has fallen and struggled mentally since Mary's death. She goes in to talk to James, and she asks how he's doing, and he says, I wish I could have just been there for her. And the doctor tells James, you can't blame yourself for everything. The chaos in your mind is not real. You can recover and you can get better. And the doctor goes to leave as James says thank you. So now it's just James, and he's looking out the window and he sees a happy couple. And as he sees that couple, a moth flies up to the window, followed by another and another and another, and a swarm of moths covers everything. And he's back in Silent Hill. So now James is back in the room with Maria, and Maria is trying to convince him to leave with her, even to the point of kissing him. But James refuses. James is going to find Mary in Silent Hill, whatever it takes. So he goes to the elevator, and he and Maria go down, 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 while she tries to convince him to leave. And then the elevator opens up, and they're in a hallway. And within the hallway are painting after painting of Mary, and the paintings seem to be showing her getting sicker and sicker, and James refuses to accept that Mary is dead, no matter what Maria says. And then Pyramid comes back and kills Maria. And it's actually it's a good scene. It's a solid action scene. There is a little bit where James goes James, and he goes like this, and I can see people being mad about that. I think it's solid, especially when it's kind of like vague about exactly what's going on within his mind versus reality. So it works for me. But yes, the Pyramid Head kills Maria, and then James goes forward. And then we get another flashback, and James is super drunk, and painting, and he's painting himself, and then crossing himself out, basically 3 red lines to cross himself out. And then as he passes out, he suddenly falls into water and then wakes up, and Lakeview, the hotel, is burning. And so he gets up and starts walking towards the hotel. And now we get to what appears to be one of the 2 most controversial scenes in the movie, where Laura repeatedly asks James Mary's full name, and it is revealed that Mary's full name is Mary Angela Laura Crane. And there's a tombstone that James is at while mourning that is also showing it. And I will say, she was in a cult So a weird tombstone would not be that surprising to me. But also, Silent Hill plays games with people, and if he has delusions, that also plays games with people. And I am mostly okay with this for a couple reasons that no matter what I say, Silent Hill 2 people are going to be mad about, many of them. First is that as good as Angela's story is in the game, Angela is completely a side character who really doesn't do anything to push the narrative forward. She's basically there to have a solid, strong side story while also establishing the rules of how Silent Hill can play with people's perceptions in different ways. And it's already established in the game that Maria was created by Silent Hill. So the idea that Laura or Angela or Eddie or anyone else would be created by Silent Hill doesn't really bother me because it's actually part of the lore even in the games. So it's like, I understand being upset, and I'm not saying you don't have a right to be upset, especially for a variety of reasons. But for me, I don't know what the best way would even be to roll her into this story where there's only a handful of characters and you're trying to explain all the characters without potentially rolling her into the Silent Hill world. Silent Hill creates them. Or it's a delusion. Or if it's all a delusion, you know? So, I am okay with this scene. It's not the best. Don't let kill me, Silent Hill 2 fans. Unless, like, it's a bounty. I get it. Anyway, so now he's going through a fiery hallway that for some odd reason I think of Alone in the Dark instead of Silent Hill, even though there's fires and like tons of horror stuff. But he's going through a hallway, and then he sees Angela, this version of Angela, and she's on a bed, talking and implying about being abused, and the scene is there. It's made very like. Another thing I'll say is I've seen people say that the implication is that she did not go through similar things to Angela in the games. I definitely am under the impression, based on the couple of scenes we get and the monsters we see, that she definitely went through similar things in some way, shape, or form. It's open to interpretation, obviously, but that is definitely the implication I got from those couple of scenes of Angela, is that Mary in some way, shape, or form faced something similar to what Angela does in the games. My interpretation. These are the complicated things where I understand, but also I'm like, this is my point of view, and it's awkward. And yeah. So in the movie, Angela partially changes into a monster who is suffering instead of being attacked by a monster. And James apologizes to her before she burns and flickers away. Now he's back in the fiery hallways, and he thinks he sees Mary going up the stairs. So he runs up the stairs to the top of the roof to try to find her, only to see a bed with a wrapped up body that appears to be dead. Now we have a flashback to James visiting that same hotel to see Mary, only she's incredibly sick. Sick to the point that during this scene, her nose is even bleeding profusely. And James is there to help her, but also to apologize, because he believes that by abandoning her in Silent Hill, he helped to kill her. And Mary is responding by reassuring him that no matter what happened, she would have ended up in the same position. She even says that her father had been poisoning her all her life, which could be interpreted multiple ways. But it also could be interpreted as Mary just reassuring James that it's not his fault. James ends up asking her if there's anything he can do to help her. And she asks him to give her freedom the only way she could possibly know how. Freedom from sickness and freedom from her father. And freedom from trauma. And so James proceeds to while this is happening, there are 3 different scenes playing out. There are flashbacks even further to when they were happy together. There's him in the room doing it, and then there is him with the moth version of Mary apologizing and saying that he should have died with her and he should have gone with her to end it. And then it finally ends with him kneeling over her wrapped body on the roof of Lakeview before proceeding to carry her body down from the roof and into the car that he had used originally to drive into Silent Hill, before driving into the lake and slowly descending to the bottom. And so this is where people get it wrong.
I gotta spoil it, so I'm just gonna spoil the end of the movie here. James creates a time loop and goes back to the start of the film and saves Mary, meaning that Silent Hill 2 is no longer this beautiful meditation on loss and grief and self-loathing. It's now a film about how time travel is cool. Time travel's cool.
That's not what happens. I don't know. You kind of got the hint that that's how I feel, but that's not what happens. Okay. So as James is at the bottom of the lake with Mary, he's giving a speech and he reaches out and holds her hand. And the last thing he says is, "This time I won't let go." Before the truck from the beginning of the movie starts coming at him, well, he's still at the bottom of the lake, and the lights flash a bright white, and you hear the doctor say, "Are you with us, Mr. Sunderland?" And then the scene plays out the way Mr. Regular Eyepatch Wolf said, except not, because there is a hint that even if it is the time loop, that they're still trapped in Silent Hill, because a storm starts very briefly. He gives the same hint on a more subtle way than he does in the first movie, that they're still trapped in Silent Hill. So, it's a multiple ending movie, just like Silent Hill is a multiple ending game, and I cannot believe it is currently on Wikipedia wrong. It is literally designed to be multiple endings, just like a Silent Hill game. How the number of Silent Hill fans I've seen that have gotten this completely wrong. Now, I choose Regular Eyepatch Wolf, honestly, because I like him, even though I disagree, obviously, with this sentiment. But almost every Silent Hill person has not even, they've all talked like that's the ending, when it is firmly established that this guy, who is a huge Silent Hill fan, created multiple endings. Either the bright light is him dying, or he's in the hospital and possibly dying or succumbing to his delusions, or he's drowning and dying at the bottom of the lake, or the time loop. It can be any of those things, because he literally designed it that way. What are you guys doing? Do you want to see the final shot in the movie? I'm going to put it here in post. It's panning up. I'm just going to put a photo, but it's panning up to the lake. The implication is that he's potentially dead in the lake. It's the most Silent Hill ending. It's literally he's driving away with her, but also potentially he's not, because he's dead in the lake. Now, to be clear, I don't love this movie, but I like this movie. This movie was made on half the budget of the original movie. This movie had tons of production issues. This movie was so clearly made by somebody who likes Silent Hill. He just doesn't only like Silent Hill 2. He likes all the Silent Hills. He likes Shattered Memories. He likes Homecoming. He likes tons of stuff. I don't even know, man. The movie also kind of reminded me of 1408. I am kind of just going to wrap it up. 1408, Eyes Wide Shut, Rosemary's Baby. I think that's about it. But yeah, I see what you did, Christophe. Okay? So if you need anyone to back you up, you know where to find me. Right here.